In 99 and 44 100% pure horror, Loudon Sandleton, the timid president of a soap company, knows his wife Willa is cheating on him. After he fires her for a failed ad campaign, she snaps. Driven by jealousy and greed, Willa murders Loudon, dumping his body into the soap factory, where his death becomes part of the company's product. The banality of evil explains how horrific acts stem not from monstrous villains, but from ordinary people acting thoughtlessly, driven by routine or self-interest. It's about cruelty emerging from indifference rather than outright malice, where individuals commit harm by reducing others to tools or obstacles. This concept highlights how evil often hides in the mundane, dressed in normality, making it more insidious and pervasive. For example, as a trans woman who has been on hormones for 15 months already, it feels like 1,000 sharp blades cutting away at me when I hear someone I care about call me a man or refer to me by my dead name. And even though I know 9 out of 10 times it happens, it isn't malicious, it still eats away at me. Inspired by Hannah Ardent's concept of the banality of evil, this analysis examines how the episode portrays monstrous actions as the byproduct of ordinary human motivations, self-interest, ambition, and moral apathy. Willa Sandleton, the central antagonist, becomes a case study in how casual cruelty can spiral into extraordinary horror, with her choices embodying the everyday mechanisms that enable evil to flourish. Willa's choices are not driven by overt malice, but by her selfish desires, preserving her lifestyle, advancing her career, and disposing of her husband as an inconvenient obstacle. Her actions are chillingly methodical and calculated, a stark contrast to the theatrical villainy often associated with horror. Willa's motivations are entirely mundane. She wants control, success, and freedom from Loudon, whom she views as weak and unworthy. By reducing her husband to a disposable object, she underscores the banality of evil's argument that evil emerges when people deny the humanity of others, treating them as means to an end. The decision to kill Loudon and literally dissolve him in a soap is symbolic of this dehumanization, as he becomes part of a commodity stripped of all individuality. The episode critiques how capitalism and consumerism mask moral decay. Willa's advertising work represents the creation of illusions, promising purity and cleanliness while hiding the grim reality of exploitation and death. The soap itself, a literal byproduct of her evil, serves as a metaphor for the facade of virtue that disguises systemic wrongdoing. Central to Arendt's theory is the idea that evil arises from thoughtlessness and the failure to empathize with others. Willa's actions exemplify this moral apathy. She neither grapples with the ethical implications of her decisions nor acknowledges Loudon's humanity. Her affair, her manipulation of Loudon's trust, and ultimately his murder are devoid of personal malice. Instead, they reflect a chilling indifference. This detachment underscores the idea that evil does not always appear as rage or hatred, but can manifest as cold pragmatism. Loudon's meekness further highlights the imbalance of power in their relationship. His awareness of Willa's infidelity and his inability to confront her positions him as a tragic figure, emblematic of those who become victims not because of their faults, but because they are seen as objects by those in pursuit of their ambitions. The visual storytelling in this episode amplifies its thematic concerns. The sterile, polished environment of the soap factory contrasts sharply with the visceral horror of Loudon's death and its aftermath. This juxtaposition mirrors the duality Arendt describes. The surface purity of bureaucratic systems conceals the rot beneath. The soap itself, pristine and marketable, becomes a grotesque artifact of Willa's crime, symbolizing how appearances can mask corruption. The episode's color palette, dominated by whites and pastels, reinforces the theme of deceptive purity. Blood and gore disrupt the sanitized aesthetic, visually embodying the tension between surface appearances and underlying horror. The factory, with its mechanical precision, serves as a metaphor for this dehumanizing system that facilitates evil, reducing individuals to cogs in a machine. Marxist theory identifies the bourgeoisie's pursuit of private as a driving force of exploitation. Willa, in her role as an advertising artist, manipulates consumer desires to sustain the soap company's profits. Her willingness to turn to murder illustrates the extreme lengths to which individuals can go when entangled in systems that prioritize material gain over ethical considerations. Willa's character serves as a critique of the capitalist ethos, where personal ambition eclipses moral boundaries. Soap, marketed as a symbol of cleanliness and purity, becomes a darkly ironic metaphor for the dirty mechanisms of profit generation. Ludin's transformation into soap literalizes the dehumanization of labor, where the worker is consumed by the system he serves. This act of turning human remains into a commodity highlights the grotesque extent of commodification under capitalism. Willa's infidelity underscores the erosion of genuine human connection in a profit-driven society. Her affair with another man reflects the transactional nature of relationships under capitalism, where loyalty and love are secondary to personal gain. Ludin's awareness of her betrayal and his inability to confront it mirrors this disempowerment of individuals within oppressive systems. His passivity symbolizes the alienation and helplessness experienced by those who are subjugated by capitalist forces. Willa's lack of remorse for her actions further illustrates the moral apathy fostered by capitalism. Her decision to murder Ludin is devoid of personal malice. Instead, it is a pragmatic choice driven by ambition. This detachment highlights how capitalist systems encourage individuals to prioritize self-interest over empathy and ethical responsibility. The episode critiques consumer culture's role in perpetuating capitalist exploitation. Soap as a consumer product is marketed as a symbol of cleanliness, masking the grim realities of its production. This parallels how capitalist systems disguise exploitation with the illusion of progress and prosperity. The advertising campaign, spearheaded by Willa, manipulates consumer desires to sustain the illusion of purity while concealing the violence underlying the system. Marxist theory emphasizes the ideological function of consumerism, which perpetuates false consciousness by distracting individuals from the realities of exploitation. Willa's role is creating these illusions underscores her complicity in maintaining the capitalist system. Her downfall serves as a critique of the deceptive nature of consumer culture, which perpetuates harm under the guise of virtue. As this tale concludes, we're left with an unsettling unease, as if the moral fabric of the world has quietly frayed. Willa's fate mirrors an inescapable truth. The machinery of human cruelty churns not from grand designs, but from the weight of indifferent desires. Her world, gleaming with deceptive purity, collapses into the grotesque, leaving us pondering the fragile boundaries between the mundane and the monstrous. In her downfall, we see a reflection, not of villains, but of ourselves, adrift in a system too vast to contain consequence. Watch this video next.